It would cause angst, I'm sure, initially, but I'm all for it. And specifically, I'm all for salary and specifically expenses. Because if you look at the FTSE 100 companies, take the CEO and the disparity between them and their median full-time workers, it's 100 to 1.
Wow.
Now, it's very, very difficult for those CEOs to then say, guys, we're going to have some cutbacks. We're going to have some cutbacks while I'm flying on first-class planes. And while that's fairly anecdotal, fairly anomalous, I think there's a broader point that there's a real disparity between the absolute apex of companies and ultimately people on the front line. And so I would like it to be exposed, and especially when it comes to equity of pay, especially within women, I think it's an amazing thing.
But of course, we know what CEOs earn. The question is whether you go further down the building and you've got an office full of, let's say, middle-ranking people, 15 people, and you put all the salaries up on the notice board. Does it make the office unmanageable?
Yes, I think it does. I don't think people need to be privy to what everyone's on. Why? Why do you need to know? Watch what you're doing and watch what you get. And if you want an increased salary, work harder. Get your education up. There's probably people within offices I've worked in where I may earn more. Why? Because I negotiated better. I have more degrees than them. I worked harder initially to get what I wanted. So I think if you're going to do that, you're going to have to put too much context. This person is on 40, but this person's on 30 because this person did a lot more overtime, has more qualifications. You can't just say this is it.
Let's take, for example, I can't speak specifically on ITM, but I've worked in many production companies where you'll have an AP, an assistant producer, that's actually a researcher that's stepping up. What it basically means is they're getting a cheap AP, and you'll have that across the board where people are constantly acting up with the carrot dangled of, you can prove to us over the course of the next ad infinitum time to do the role, and eventually, as a role becomes available, we might put you forward there. That sort of nonsense practice is a farce. Take, for example, the legal profession. After you've had a very long degree, you then get paid peanuts at the beginning, which means really it's then for the sons and daughters of rich people. The bank of mum and dad is the prerequisite. This should not be allowed, and it isn't allowed if it's transparent, because where there's transparency, there's the truth.
I'm in the legal profession. The only reason why many receive peanuts now is because loads of people wanted to go and study law, and then everybody wants to do crime. So it's overpopulated. So where an industry is overpopulated, you are going to get less. If people were more creative and said, actually, let me go into a niche, let me go into contract law, you would get money, a lot more money, even newly qualified.
So when you started in the legal profession, month one, what was your pay?
Well, I took a completely different route. And that's what I'm saying. I was more creative. I'm niche. I'm only in housing. So I probably do get more than a newly qualified solicitor in crime, where they have so much to choose from, these firms, you're going to get lower pay. And I just think, going back to our culture is the moan and groan. So we would be resentful. We would be like, well, why does he get that? Why does she get that?
I mean, when I was working a long time ago in a BBC office as a reporter, a guy said to me, you know, this guy over here, pointing at, like, he's paid 20 grand a year more than you, and the only reason is he comes into my office twice a month and complains about his salary. He said, why aren't you doing that? I said, I didn't think I had to.
Interesting.
But this person used to go,
we don't even like wealthy people here who work hard. We try to claw down landlords. We try to claw down people that are, you know, self-made millionaires. So now we're going to have all of that toxicity on a localised level in the office every day.
But what about the issue where you've got 10 people in the office and your thought is, put the salary on the wall, then it's fair. After it settles down, there's no complaint. But person number 7 has been headhunted, or they've been told, look, come over and work somewhere else. And person number 7 goes to the boss and says, you know what, I've been offered an extra £3,000 a year to work for the shop down the road, and you're going to have to match it for me to stay. Now, under your system, the boss would have to pay everyone an extra £3,000 a year.
Well, what it would mean is you have more competitive prices, because ultimately they won't go to the other shop down the road if what you're paying is competitive already.
Yeah, but isn't this cheap? Because you've got to pay 30 grand a year because you've got 10 people in that office. Why don't you just pay the extra £3,000 to the person who's been headhunted and just tell them not to mention it?
That won't work.
Because let's not necessarily put the onus on paying the individual. Why not create a practice and an environment where people want to work for you regardless? I would also go even further. I would say, let's make it transparent, for example, about how many people in an office come from a private school background. Because, again, if I remember, again, being...
Pay them less?
No, but making it very fundamentally clear, because if we want equity, I want to say, well, hang on a second, why is it that this office is overpopulated with people who come from a very specific background?
Interesting.
And especially in government.
Wear special hats or what?
Just make it a
single them out.
Okay, but what about this? You have a company, your aim is to make more money.
Yeah.
Whether that person, let's say that person from private school does have more ability based on schooling, no one's fault. You just want your company to be successful. Why would you then just blanket pay everybody when that person actually is a specialist in that field and he deserves more money?
Well, to stop arguments. That's the whole point. I do get that.
Yeah, but not everyone deserves equal pay.